No.
I think I mean, I'm just answering it. No, I think it's related to concept.
Okay.
Are you intending for this piece to be seen as presented in this moment for how long? How are you thinking about how it will be kind of put out in the world later on? If you're printing it on something, what's your expectation? So does that matter? What are the ideas of recording it following the actual presentation of piece when it comes to photography? So all of these things are things that are related to what the artist should be thinking about in terms of kind of putting their work out there. And then the answer is a billion different things for however someone wants to present their work.
Well, I guess Foley would answer this. So when it gets to the market question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit concerned about, longevity because, I mean, photography is so often defined and evolves by the technical advancements, the ability, what materials are available out there, how long do they last, et cetera. And certainly there was a time, not so much today, but I think when inkjet prints or pigment prints, whatever you want to call it, kind of were moving in, the question was how long are these going to last and et cetera. And there was always like, well, it's printed on Fuji Crystal Archive or, something else, and this is the best. My feeling is with so many materials available for photographic artists out there that no matter what your concept is, no matter what color balance you want, no matter what texture of paper you want, there's a material out there that will give you a very, very long life. And I don't think that should be jeopardized or taken lightly when we are dealing with material that's collectible. And we'd like to believe, from the onset that we are providing representations of that artist that will last for as long as the material can hold out. And the point being that the material we look for is the material that's going to last the longest in the moment. I mean, as photography progresses and as different types of mounting procedures start to really either expire or last longer, we'll discover what materials do last the longest. And I think today it's fairly easy to discover which ones are going to last and which ones aren't. So why choose the ones that aren't going to last?
Do you ever have like a collector? I mean, there must be different sort of criteria for private collectors and institutions, but have you ever had somebody come back to you and say, I don't want, this has changed, I can't take it anymore?
I haven't had that experience yet.
Zoe, you have.
Oh my God, all the time.
And what do you think of it?
Yeah, too bad. Or I reprint it, whatever.
Okay.
How about that? There you go, one of the two.
Love it. Actually, Zoe, could I ask you a question? So what about the famous after death question? Could someone else reprint it? I mean, what happens, I assume they're digital files somewhere?
They're all digital files at this point, even the ones that were filmed. And after death, yes, these images are very specific as part of the installation, and so they are available out in the world. And so after death, all of these images, in terms of the content of the installation and where the installation, it'll probably be through the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the idea of how these images can move about. But yes, they can be bandied about and discussed in relation to the way the installation was intended. And I'll be dead. I'll be totally dead. So I will not give a flying fuck. And my intent is that if I'm dead, then all others should be benefiting who have known me in my life. No qualms with that whatsoever. And I can save all integrity for alive.
It's actually wonderful because you are so clear. It's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Get ready to start making big bucks.
As a curator, I can only hope that the maker will be responsible enough to do things archival quality materials, but it's never going to happen. I don't really expect that. So I don't think they should be thinking about this. They should be making art.
Right.
I get all kinds of stuff, and books have been around a long time. They're probably going to be around a long time, no matter what kind of materials they're made out of. The Milwaukee photographer Lindsay Lockman, who I think I saw in here someplace. There she is. Right there she is. She gave me a 9/11 book that I found fascinating, but the materiality that was made out of, beside paper and pigments, was that it was soaked in was chicken livers, was it? Yeah, it's in chicken livers, to give this blood stain to it, and it smelled like death, and it was supposed to smell like death. That was part of the experience. You can subsume all these experiences, these sensory experiences within the framework of the book form, not just the visual. And I accepted the book, and then it was rejected by the university because it was a biohazard. So one has to take these considerations. And I still have the book, and I still show it, but I don't tell the university that come and see the book. It's great.
Well, I mean, that brings up a question of like when artists imagine that their work, in your case too, when an artist knows that their work has a shelf life and they don't care that when that's over, then how do we share it with other people? Or is it okay, you're just fine with the concept dying with the object?
No, I think we're at a point where we're able to replicate these images.
Okay.
Photographs specifically are intended to be reproduced, and there'll be great differences in how they're printed and shown, but the intent behind the actual making of the photograph is that you are able to continue to show it, and that's part of my concept, and that's
Right.
also part of the photographic process, including the showing of the image. So it's actually, I think, while there's certainly, if we're not talking about daguerreotypes, we're talking about the idea of the fact that we can, at this point, scan and reproduce and save the image fairly close to the way that it had been shown.
And I think, I may be mistaken on this, but when I saw The Waking Dream at the Met, weren't some of the photographs reproductions? I think some of the Talbot photographs, some of the early, this was the Gilman collection, I think when they were on display, I think maybe.
The Met really tries not to show facsimiles. We really tried to show the originals. The exceptions are autochromes. I mean, we showed autochromes for 1 week, but the rest of the time they were facsimiles. And, any unfixed photographs.
Like salt prints or,
Well, salt prints are fixed, but photogenic drawings like the Talbot I showed, that basically we never show. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Nora, I should, what I said, do you find that to be true? Do you feel that a photograph has longevity in so long as that it can continue to be reproduced, even if the original is not able to be shown, or doesn't last?
It completely depends on the maker. Some artists do not accept that the work is reproduced. I mean, you can look at, and the same holds true for digital prints as it does for silver gelatin black and white. If you have a print from the 20s and then you try to do that again in the 70s, you get a really different product. And it's partly the person is different, the materials are really different. It's just really hard to get the same print. So, and some artists refuse, do not want anything printed later because it won't have the same qualities.
It's not the same object.
And some artists, it's the image. You want the image to be reproduced. Actually, I ran across an interesting case. These two artists, Dove Bradshaw, are you familiar with her work? Her work is all about change. She does these sculptures where she'll have a piece of white stone and then some iron, and she leaves it outside, and of course it changes, and the rust. I mean, they're beautiful. They're really wonderful. Or water dripping on a stone, and it gradually. So her work is all about how materials change. And she and her partner, Bill Anastasi, took portraits of themselves every single day for a period of years and years and years. And they made these really great albums. And at some point they called me and said, could you come and look at these albums? And the albums were beautiful. All these Polaroid photographs. And of course the older ones had undergone some changes. Some had discoloration, some had this wonderful mirroring, almost iridescent colors. I mean, they were beautiful. And they said, these have been changing, which is, we don't mind that, but we want them to stop now, because we like how they look now. And I said, are you kidding? This is against what you believe in, isn't it? And plus, I didn't know how to stop them.